Wow, it's rock and roll. It's rock and roll. It's the 5150 show. Tick tock, time to rock. How's it going, Rock Professor? Brad,
Anyth-
Mr.
Anything that's rock and
Perfecto.
roll's fine.
Good to see you guys. It's a pleasure to be here, obviously, every week with you guys. I look forward to doing this record. We've got a couple of things we want to do a shout out, but before we do the shout outs that we spoke about beforehand, at the 30 seconds before we go live, the planning production meeting that we have, I want to do a shout out to Brad. Folks, thank you, folks, for watching us weekly. I ask you please to go and check out Brad at Brad Cook Music. Go and follow him there, and also the Rock Professor as well, Simon Williams 33. I want to do a shout out to my two co-hosts. Please go and follow them. Subscribe to Brad's YouTube channel too, folks. Please do that. Our friends on our YouTube channel as well, but more specifically, please go and support our co-hosts.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
No problem. We don't do it enough. We should be asking more and more, because sometimes people have to be reminded to subscribe. From experience, Simon. So we're always going to be reminding people to do things, because it's what we do.
Do very small things. We should say very small things. Anyway, I've got an official complaint to register with the chairman of the board. You made me get up at 5:30 a.m. this morning. I'd just like to register an official complaint. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning. In the UK, it's so bloody early. It's still the middle of the night.
When does your clock go forward or back?
It went back about 3 hours ago.
Is this too? Oh, is this? Look. Yeah, I'm sorry, Rock Professor. But Brad, I'm going to blame Brad. Brad said to me,
Yeah.
"Bro, we got to go this time, otherwise I'm out of here." I said, "Okay, all right."
Never mind the Rock Pros having to gap in in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Anyway, he's up in the morning anyway. So what's he bloody? Don't.
What's he complaining about? Yes. Notice I waited till I came on to complain. I didn't complain about it in the green room.
Look, thank you, Simon, for doing that. But it's just, to be fair, it's just a little bit easier for us. Just a little bit easier, rather than.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway,
right,
you're going to be retiring soon, so we're giving you something to practice for. All this leisure time you're going to have.
Well, getting up in the middle of the night in case I'm going off time in the day. Oh dear. Anyway, I just thought I'd complain about that on the show rather than backstage before we start, because
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm going to tell you something else, Brad. Every time someone makes a comment, you get a notification. And one thing that we do here on our channel here is that we reply to every notification. You'll notice that we either heart it or make a reply. It's something, I think that you should do as channel people. It's the least you can do, is give people some acknowledgement. Anyway, one of the first shows that Simon and I did, Brad, with Carl. Some dude made this comment. Was one of the first shows we did on Peter Green. He said, I watched you guys, and after 7 minutes of yakking, I decided to switch off. and somebody replied back saying, and it wasn't me, someone, only 7 minutes.
Was it John? It's only 7 minutes. Jeez. we better start quick. We've only been going for 5:24. He might switch off again.
Sometimes we've shitted on for about 30 minutes before we've actually started a show, haven't we?
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because either one of us will get on a roll, and then all of a sudden, 30 minutes is gone. We haven't even started ranking a track.
Well, that's right. But we always try and have fun. So again, we've always said this too, folks. If you're not having fun doing this gig, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not having
Fantastic.
fun, there's no point doing it. So if I'm allowed to get back onto script, I'm going to do the first shout out, folks.
Go for it.
Big reason why our channel exists. Peter Green celebrated his birthday today, born in 1946, passed away, a few years ago. Forgive me for not knowing the year. But a big shout out to Peter Green and to his legacy, because, without his music, without his contribution, Brad, a lot of us wouldn't be listening or enjoying the music that we like, that we love, that we live for. He's one of the key components of it, Brad.
100%. Yeah.
Right, Professor?
Happy birthday, Peter Green.
Yeah. Well, I would like to shout out to my old mate and bastion of the Bristol music scene for the last 30 years, Angelo Brascini, who's died on Monday, aged only 62. So he's 7 years younger than me. He was in my old band, the Blue Aeroplanes, my old mates, the Blue Aeroplanes, for a lot of years, writing some of their best known songs as well. There's a song called Jacket Hangs, which has a particular riff at the beginning that's all Angelo. And also he was in, more famously, I guess, in a Massive Attack as well.
Yep.
A Bristol hip hop, seminal Bristol hip hop group, and he played with them both on record and live as well. He's a big part of their live show, playing guitar for them. So it was a big loss to the Bristol community, and he's a lovely bloke, quite a bit eccentric, but hilariously eccentric, and a lovely guy. And so the Bristol music community is mourning his passing, sadly.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Very sad
Yes,
news.
Brad.
Oh, look, another. I hate how we have to announce deaths on this show, but and mourning people. But a big shout out and rest in peace, Matthew Perry from Friends. That was a bit of a shock for me this afternoon when I saw that. I bought my Friends cup in honor of Matthew Perry. So where is he? There he is.
Chandler.
Yep, there it is.
Chandler. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Bit of a shock to the system. I mean, to be honest with you, I think he's been a part of millions of people's lives through good and bad. I know, for example, for myself, through some very, very difficult times in my life, Friends were always the show I put on just to clear the head and not think about life and not think about anything, but just watch a good show. So exactly. Rest in peace, Chandler. Bong bing.
I agree with you, bro, and I'm gonna just jump in and have a little bit of a chat with you guys about that, because a big part of the 90s wasn't that program. It was a seminal program. It was something that we all look forward to. It was something that everybody, when I used to go and have a few beers on a Thursday, we'd talk rock and roll, we'd talk politics, rugby, and we'd talk about Friends, and it was always interesting talking about those scenarios. It was funny. It was intelligent. The guys took the piss out of themselves really, really well. And it was done good, Simon, too. It wasn't, yes, there was innuendo there, because, you got to have comedy because it's between adults, so there's adult themes, obviously, but it wasn't crass, Brad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, very sad.
Hey, Ed.
Yeah, look, I mean, I remember watching the very first episode of Friends back in the 90s, and I've been watching it pretty much daily since then, to be honest with you. Like, I go through stints where I won't watch it, but there's a lot of times I'll just jump into bed and put the TV on and put something, like an episode of Friends on, just to zone out and relax and go to sleep and shut the brain off from thinking, oh, I didn't touch my guitar today. I haven't recorded that song. I haven't done this. The bills need to be paid. The life stuff. And shows like Friends were amazing for that sort of thing. Like you just watch it and you'd absorb into that world and completely forget about all your troubles at that particular time. So, yeah, mate, Matthew Perry, cheers, buddy. For it does feel like we've actually lost like a family member. Well, for me, it does anyway.
What I liked about the program, especially, and you didn't get that a lot, Simon, with American comedy. Sorry to our American family and friends out there, but being brought up on English comedy, timing is everything. Because we got that as a staple here on New Zealand TV, Brad. When we were young guys, one of the great things about Cheers is they had great timing. The timing was fantastic, and just small things, just their facial expressions sometimes, was enough to have you rolling in fits, and then you'd get songs like Smelly Cat, which would just, and
there's some of my favorite moments on sitcom TV stuff is all Friends, really. Like I watched other shows, but and the majority of the funniest things that I've ever seen on TV were Matthew Perry.
He had me in fits too, Simon. Yeah. Matthew Perry, he was certainly the star of the program, certainly the star.
Yes, well, that the sad, very sad. 54 years of age, way too young. But, anyway,
but before Brad does a shout out to you, all you fine folks in the chat, one of the great things that we have, like a musician when they pass on, is that we've got the music to enjoy as part of their legacy. As Brad said, you've got the reruns, you've got a great legacy of Friends, and you can stream all that stuff now. You don't need to go and buy the DVDs, Brad. It's all available.
Well, I've got them on box set, so I just chuck them in my DVD player every night. That's it. Just watch that and go to sleep. So yeah, I'll be watching an episode or two tonight. But anyway, rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Very, very sad news today. On that note, let's get on to more cheerier things. And I'll say a shout out to everyone in the chat before we start the show, guys. What do you think?
Yay.
All right. So we've got Polino in the chat, says catch up later, guys. So that's hopefully we'll see you in the chat a bit later. We've got Ed, we've got Nelson, we've got Simon, Mr. Rock Professor's front cheeky comments in the chat there. We've got Holly Lewis, we've got John ZD351. We have got Ellen Toll, my mother, Ellen there. We have got who else have we got in the chat? Gretch Zeppelin. We have got if I missed anyone, Johnny Heartbreaker. How could I forget Johnny Heartbreaker? I knew that I saw your name pop up there somewhere, and that's about it for the moment, guys.
Holly, morning, Holly. Got the mug out.
Tim Thomas, yes. Yep, beautiful.
Fantastic.
Anyone else lurking there, just throw us a comment, and I hope you guys have done your rankings this week so we can get your rankings.
Yeah, we look forward to this one. We look forward to this one. So before the Rock Professor kicks off the intro and the rankings, Brad, I'm taking over the show. Do you want to, because you're so eloquent with your, we'll get you while you're on a hot streak. Do you want to tell us how you came across this album and in particular how you came across Tom Petty, and then obviously the Rock Professor, myself, and then the Rock Professor will do the intro.
Yeah. Tom Petty, I came across by accident, really. I'd heard a lot of Tom Petty on the radio, and this album came on at a party, I guess, like a barbecue, and I was like, hey, that sounds like Tom Petty. Is that who it is? and I discovered it through that. So I ended up getting it, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't listened to this album for a very long time. It's been at least 3 to 5 years, guys. So it's been a long time since I've actually put this on for a spin. So it's been really good to listen to it with semi-fresh ears. I'll say that, but the vibe of the album, it's got elements of, I mean, I don't want to spoil my rankings, but it's got elements of rock. It's got elements of even one or two songs, a little bit of psychedelia rock. There's a bit of punk going on. There's a bit of everything going on in this record, and it is to somewhat innovative for its time, 1976. The songs are short and sharp, and there's a lot of catchy hooks. But to answer your question, Andrew, it was by accident really that I discovered this album, because I was at a barbecue or a friend's house doing like a get together, and everyone was chucking records on. You know, it's my turn. You know what it's like when you go to
Sure.
barbecues. Let me put the next record on, and someone put this on, and I was like, oh, this is Tom Petty, is it? This is great. So yeah, I got Tom Petty that way. But I'd heard Tom Petty before that moment, but I'd never really sort of, raced out and bought any Tom Petty stuff until that point. On the radio, I mean, Tom Petty here in Australia is played pretty much every hour or every second hour on classic rock.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing, because it's the same scenario here. So back in the olden days, Brad, when I was a young fellow, Damn the Torpedoes was released in October 79, and it never became a huge album here, Simon, until Refugee came out as a solo single early in would have been 1980 or something like that, maybe. Because it was never promoted as a single or a band through the radio stations when the album was released. But I was lucky enough, Brad, I've spoken a few times about my uncle Eddie, who had a wonderful record collection, and I remember it would have been early 79, it would have been the summer of 79, so I would have been a young guy, 12, listening to this album and thinking, wow, this is great. I thought this was an old album, Simon, an album from the 60s, or from, didn't realise it was, only a couple of years old. And then when Refugee came out, that single, and it was everywhere, it was huge. It was the one that broke Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers as a band here in New Zealand. Then everybody was on the board listening to it, and it was kind of new wavy as well, and he was good looking, and I remember my Normally friends going, yeah, this cat's really good, and I'm thinking, wow, go and listen to his first album. And then Hard Promises came out, Simon, huge influence on my life, Brad and Simon, huge influence. He's been up there when I was a young guy for a long, long time. Him and Neil Young, I remember listening to them for hours and hours on end, blown away. Always thought, before I toss it on to the Rock Professor, I always thought that a lot of the solos that I was listening to, and obviously we'll talk about this during the rankings, was Tom Petty, and didn't realise actually that, all the solos just about were all Mike Campbell. So we'll talk about him. But great album. Great choice by the Rock Professor, and I look forward to doing a few more Tom Petty albums with you guys.
Yeah.
Simon,
so, today's quiz question is: what is the connection between Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Neil Young? Any ideas?
Andrew was listening to them when he was 13 and 14 years old.
That's why it occurred to me. Yes, correct, but not the correct answer.
Oh, okay.
The correct answer is Niels Lofgren, of course.
Yes, the guitar player.
Niels Lofgren played with Neil Young, and this is when I first discovered Tom Petty. Is his first big break was just after they recorded their first album, this the one we're ranking, was he came to the UK and they supported Niels Lofgren and he was going around the town halls of the UK supporting I Came to Dance, which includes a version of Happy by the Rolling Stones. Keith was just Happy. And his previous album, Cry Tough, contains a song called Keith Don't Go. Well, Keith hasn't gone yet, so we're doing all right. But
yeah.
So basically, that's where I discovered Tom Petty. And this is my record from 1977 that I bought in 1977. Had it ever since. Vinyl, of course. And I went to see him on that tour. We went to see him supporting Nils Lofgren on that tour. And he was brilliant. He had to. It's interesting, the little things you remember. So 2 things I remember about the concert. One was that Nils Lofgren had a mini trampoline, which he did a flip on. That's quite something. I've never seen anybody do a flip on stage whilst playing the guitar, bouncing on the trampoline. But Mike Campbell had an Ebo. You know, one of those Ebo. And he had this gadget, and he kept going, putting it in. What in even is that? You know, because I don't ever come across a plectrum, I think, just about, but didn't know what it was, and because he had no way of finding out really, unless he commented on it in an interview or something. But I don't think anybody ever asked him. It was years and years before he actually discovered what it actually was. Don't encourage John. He doesn't need. It's Tom, but it. So yes, I don't know, for some reason, basically, I came in because the UK was in at the beginning of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. That's where I came in, and so I bought the album when it came out, and I've loved Tom Petty ever since as an artist. You know, and I've got pretty much all his records, and you know, clearly things like Full Moon Fever and stuff is a great record. Wildflowers is also a great record from later on.
Masterpiece.
But you're right, Andrew. All those, you know, Damn the Torpedoes, Hard Promises, Southern Accents. That's a great run of records, and you know, at some point we'll get round to those, and I'm really looking forward to that. I have one other Tom Petty story as well, that later on in 1988, 87, 88, I went to see Tom Petty with Bob Dylan and Roger McGuinn. They did a 3 tour, and so Roger McGuinn did some stuff on his own. Then he got backed by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Then they did something, and then they backed Bob Dylan, and then Roger McGuinn, Bob Dylan, and them all played together at the end. So we went to Wembley Arena. It was great gig. On the way back, I was driving back in the middle of the night through, and it's very kind of windy, and I having to go quite slowly on the motorway. And I was like, what is going on? So I get home at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I get in, and Caroline wakes up, and she says, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" She said, "Oh, you've driven back through a hurricane."
Wow.
And that night, that famous British event where we had a hurricane, where our national weatherman Michael Fish said, a woman from Hampshire's phoned in and said, "Oh, we're having a hurricane." "We're not having a hurricane." "Yes, we are." And I drove back through it without realizing. I could say ignorance is bliss, because I didn't realize I wasn't that scared. But yeah. So
yeah,
Tom Petty has been a part of me ever since he came out.
Yeah, and I think we touched on that last week. It's one of those great English-American connections, again, that music has. You know, Tom Petty, like I said to you guys, folks, and please just give me a second while So this is the book of the DVD that you guys can get. It's called Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Running Down a Dream. And it plots very clearly how they went to the UK. They toured the UK. They were stars. They broke in the UK, Brad. Yeah. They had girls and dudes chasing them. Then they get back to America and nobody knows them.
What's it? Stanley said, "Well, we're stars. No, we're not. No,
that's right." And then they have to go back and do the grind once again, Brad, you know, so they find themselves driving up to Perth like you, bro, you know, back in...
Brad doesn't drive. He goes in a private jet.
Oh, he flies now. He flies.
We've seen the photos.
Yeah. Oh, look, I loaned my private jet to Paul McCartney while he's here.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
So magnanimous.
How come he didn't come and get me then?
Now, Paul didn't want
It's not
hang
deviating.
on. Sorry. He didn't want to hang on.
Didn't want any
It's like a
Klingons.
bus. It doesn't deviate from the assigned route around Australia.
But-
I forgot to mention also that
Morning,
I
Phil.
got more into Tom Petty through the Travelling Wilburys too.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, and let's do that album because that album celebrated the anniversary a couple of weeks ago too. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Travelling Wilburys, yeah.
Huge album.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because again, it's one of those albums, Simon, where everybody, you know, I remember dudes I was hanging out with who were heavy metalers listening to that album, reggae dudes listening to that album. So, just one of those wonderful crossover
barriers.
albums. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's an amazing album. Amazing. And well, from my understanding, probably one of the first real supergroups of artists from other bands all coming together to form a supergroup.
Look, I thoroughly agree with you, and it's really interesting because you know there's a lot of video footage. And can I just share one thing with you guys before we actually start the show properly? And if anybody's going to make any comments and say, you know, you guys 27 minutes and then you get all yakking before the show starts, sorry, it's what we do here. It's a yak show.
Yes, it is.
It's a yak show.
Yes, we do.
It's a yak. Okay, are we clear?
Yak.
It's a
Yakety
yak show.
Don't get back. Yes.
Okay, we're clear on that. So, Brad, you know, there's one piece of footage, and they're in the studio, and Roy Orbison is sitting there, and Tom Petty goes up to him and says, "Hey, Roy, I think you're the best singer alive." And Roy turns around and goes, "I think you're right." After, you know, but it wasn't like said like you know, like big headedness or you know, it was said it was said like because they were listening back to the music, they were listening back and going, yeah. So he's going, yeah, that sounds, yeah, I'm singing pretty good.
Singing pretty good. Yeah. Well, 4-octave range. He's an amazing singer.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, well.
Is that enough yak?
That's enough yak. I was just going to say enough.
I was going to say, let's try and start before half an hour has gone by.
Right. Rock Professor, kick off the show.
I agree with John. It's called a warm up. You've got to take a run up at these things. You can't just launch into it. Good God, that would be terrible.
Oh, is that John HD 308? I've changed his name. He's not a ZD 351 anymore, Brad. He's an HQ 308.
HQ 308.
Oh. So just a bit of background. I couldn't find a huge amount about the recording of the album. There was a bit in the documentary I watched thing, but so they were formed in Gainesville, Florida, in 1976. Tom had played in earlier bands, including Mudcrutch. And if you've watched the documentary about their early life, they did a brilliant thing. That they lived in this house in the woods. They decided they'd have a festival, so they organised this festival for the local people, and like 1,500 people turned up. The second one they did, it was all got a bit out of hand, and they didn't realise they had to have a license or anything to do. So if you watch it, it's very funny. It's a very cool description of a sort of DIY approach to bands. You know, if you can't get anywhere to play, we'll just play where we live, and they set up this place. That's fantastic. So clearly quite a sort of, DIY band. But so in '76, Tom Petty formed Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I know they went round with names and stuff and things before settling on the Heartbreakers. but it's a great name. I think Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is a great name. With Mike Campbell on lead guitar, Ben Montench on keyboards, and the documentary goes into how he met Mike Campbell and Ben Montench as well, which is well worth a watch. Because Ben Montench's father was he a judge or something? He had to go and Tom Petty had to go and persuade him that he could knock off, leave college early to go and play in this rock and roll band, which is quite funny. It's with and Stan Lynch on drums and Ron Blair on bass, and those are the people who formed the first version of the Heartbreakers. As we said, they didn't gain much traction in the US, but they achieved success in the UK, over here in the UK, and I can remember seeing them on Top of the Pops, playing, I think, breakdown or anything that's rock and roll. They played, which is fantastic to see them, But interestingly, to me, I know they got lumped in with being a new wave band and stuff. They got lumped in with Blondie and Television and things, but I never quite saw them as that. They always had that kind of rock and roll edge to them. And Tom Petty's always said we were a rock and roll band, and I agree with him entirely. I think they've definitely got that, that 50s rock and roll thing still is part of their DNA, because we're talking 1976 here. But I think they have a kind of leanness and a muscularity that and the tight songs, not long solos. I think live they stretched out a bit, but certainly on this record they're all short songs and tight, punchy songs. Get in, do your stuff, get out quick, and Tom looking cool on the front cover of a. But you'll notice he's got quite long hair for sort of for punky bit. They never had really short hair stuff, but he's got the cool leather jacket on that and a black t-shirt that and they look pretty cool. But yes, I always think of them in that genre, but actually listening back to it, they're a bit more classic than that. Even then, John's listening to it now. It's only 33 minutes, John. As we've got the 32:55, you should have finished it by now. So, does anybody else want to add anything before we move into the tracks? The album was recorded in Shelter Records in Hollywood, California. There's a brilliant story about them going to California and going around all the record stores with their tape that they'd done, kind of getting them to play it and stuff. But Denny Cordell won them over with his he'd already produced Procol Harum amongst others and things, so he's quite a well-known producer. So the first track is clocking in at a lean and sparse 228. This be something of a theme. He's Rocking Around With You. So that starts off with the drums. I think it's been just the drums on their own, and then you've got kind of a bass and acoustic play quite percussively. The most impressive thing is that I'd almost forgotten, that really struck me, was one, it's quite a punchy opener, so it's a good punchy opener. Two, what great singers, all that harmony singing they do, and we get into that in some of the other tracks as well, but the harmony lead vocals and the stuff that Mike Campbell does quite in the background, the kind of noodly impressionistic lead lines that he plays behind it. Chorus is just 2 lines, just sung, and quite joined up, but quite sparse and quite open and quite gives you a chance to breathe, gives the instrument a chance to breathe. And I'm a great fan of that, in a sense, less is more. Not too many instruments and letting them all have their own space is a good idea. In a track, I think this is a great opener, and I think it has enough of that kind of punch, I say, with the drums coming in and things that it's a good lead off track. I gave it 8.5 out of 10, but never a skip.
Awesome.
Andrew.
Thank you, Simon. I just want to say a quick shout out to Steve-O in the chat. Say good day to your old man for us, Steve, please, if you can. That'll be great. Thank you, Rock Professor, for your intro. And as usual, Brad and I and the Rock Professor invite you to give your rankings on these tracks as well too. We do enjoy talking about your schools as well. Rocking around with you. So I'm just going to just remind you folks, because we love to share books here on the channel. So this is a book that came out in 2005 called Tom Petty, Conversations with Tom Petty. It's probably the closest you're going to have to a biography on the music and the history of Tom Petty and his band. And if you're into finding out a little bit more about the songs, I recommend getting hold of this book. It's available in digital as well as paperback. If you're a Tom Petty fan, you got to have this, and this is where I've got a lot of my information from. So that's my plug for Tom Petty, Brad.
Excellent.
I've always looked at this, Simon, as like a prelude or a prelude, to the album. It's for lack of a better word, it's the opener. It's the opening track. It was a number apparently that they did for a while. It goes back originally, I think, to their Mudcrutch days, I understand. But then I found out since, and it's one of the things about songs and artists, Brad, somebody contradicts that. So you don't really know. So so we don't know where this track came from. It could have been an old track, or it could have been a studio track. We don't know. I've always looked upon this as I've said, guys, as an opener before the album proper. Rock Professor, I'm not going to repeat what you said. It's it gives you a bit of an idea of where Tom Petty's coming from vocally, which is always interesting. I gave this an 8 out of 10, Brad and Simon. It's never a skip, but I certainly do look forward to the tracks after this. Brad.
Oh, well, you guys are great. I think you guys have touched on a lot of my notes, but I put here to sort of back up what you said about like a prelude to the album, Andrew. I'll put here that this song in particular sets the tone for the album. Tom Petty's vocals are filled with enthusiasm. The bass, the drums, solid. I'll put here solid driving rhythm throughout the song. I put Mike Campbell, some really catchy, like the riff, the way he's playing, some spirited lead guitar playing. I put that. Makes you want to sort of pick up the guitar and try and work out what he's doing, to be honest with you. It's great. Yeah. And I think it kind of exudes youthful energy in the song. It serves as a wonderful opener for the album. I gave it 8.5, but I agree, Andrew. It's like a bit of a prelude to the next part of the album, or for the rest of the album.
Yeah,
deliberate.
Yeah, it's a taster, isn't it? A kind of hors d'oeuvre to the main course, and I think that's not a bad idea. Introduce you. I think that's right, Brad. They introduce you to the different sounds and stuff, and what they sound like and what they do, and they can expand on that in later tracks. So, excellent. Yeah. Okay. The second track is Breakdown. I think, and I've got some bits and pieces here. At first, the distinctive guitar lick, hope we don't get copyrighted for that. Was only used at the end of the song. A singer called Dwight Twilley came to the studio when Petty was playing it back and suggested they use it throughout the song. So yeah. Petty liked the idea and called the band back to the studio in the middle of the night to re-record it. Twilley, who had a hit in 1975 with I'm on Fire, was signed to the same label as Petty, was on the same career path for a while. Lyrically quite sparse, and it's got that kind of slow to medium kind of tempo to it that is is very cool. They had a 7-minute version of it with a long guitar solo at the end, but they tidied it up to a mere 2:43 for the. Mike Campbell said, "People always tell me they instantly know who it is when they hear that lick. he said it's a pretty simple lick, but it's my sound and my feel. It holds up after all these years. We were working on our first record, and Tom brought the song in. He'd written it on piano, and our first cut was about 6 minutes long, which we knew needed to be cut down. I told Tom, put on the track and I'll noodle along and try to come up with some ideas. And nothing was really good. Near the last minute or so, with the guitar, because my mind got bored and shut off, I went da 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 da. Just played it as classic. Once you switched off and stopped concentrating, then it comes. He didn't think. Actually, he said, didn't think twice about it and went home. 2 hours later, Tom calls me up and says, Mike, I'm going down to the studio to listen to the track. You've got to come back to the studio because that guitar lick you played at the end should go at the beginning. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I went back to the studio, realized what he wanted me to do. These notes just came from a jam. It's just a great story because as a musician and writer, it speaks to the magic that happens when you don't know what you're doing. I wasn't thinking about it or trying to do anything, just following my stream of consciousness, and that little piece came out. And clearly that becomes the centerpiece of the track, you know, as with that da, 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 beautiful. It's lovely, isn't it? You know, you could sing it. It's got all, and it's just a classic riff. It's got the synth guitar riff and the electric piano as well. So this is kind of, you know, electric piano to the fore on this. For some reason, it always reminds me of the Doors, that electric piano sound. So kind of, you know, not in style, but in sound. There's that kind of tinkly sort of electric piano thing. That's a great vocals, kind of typical Tom laconic style of delivery. You know, they're not rushing at it, not to, you know, and they create an atmosphere. They create a, you know, a vibe, a feel for the song that I think is really cool. As I've said, the chorus has a bit more of a driven guitar in it, great harmony singing, you know, and classic use of, in those days, classic use of a drop down just to the keyboards in the middle, and then with the guitar riff. And you, again, the harmony singing and the guitar riff at the end, and you can tell that it's going to go off, you know, and Mike could do a lot of things with the guitar at the end, but they don't let him on this track. But nevertheless, 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. One of their first classics. Great song, and love it whenever I hear it. Andrew.
Thank you, Simon, and thanks, Holly and Alan.
Yes,
and John ZD. He's ranking some other album, but he's
ranking Madonna's album. We'll see how close he gets.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, Brad. You know, we've mentioned this a few times on the track on the show, haven't we? About Mike Campbell and his influence on us as guitar players. Even today, you know, he just toured recently with Fleetwood Mac, and go and watch some of the live stuff that he's done with Fleetwood Mac, and the Mojo album that he did, you know, with Tom Petty, you know, a few years ago. Just isn't that a great album, you know, guys? And I can't wait for us to do that album, all built around the Les Paul, 59, 58 Les Paul, you know, just that whole crunchy rock and roll tone. And we get that with Mike Campbell, don't we, on this track? It's like, welcome Mike Campbell, Simon, to the world. Welcome, you know, the rock professors already explained it to you. Single note, sort of pentatonic riff that we all learn to play, that we can all play. It's one of those single little easy tracks. It's a fantastic intro. It's simple, but it's so delicate. And it's just one of the great things that Mike Campbell gives, doesn't he, as a guitar player? He never overcomplicates things, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that more often during the course of this show. It's a fantastic song. I remember when I first heard it, Brad, blew me away. I couldn't believe that this song was so good. Yeah. As the rock professor said, you know, it's originally 7 or 8 minutes, which is a lot of, and Tom talks about that in his book. You know, they're a little bit like ZZ Top, Brad. If they've got a 7 or 8 or 10 minute song jam, they know they've got something good. Yeah. You know, and culling it back to fit on an album is so good, because they wouldn't do that today.
No,
they wouldn't.
no.
No, that's true. No, but in those days, you could, we've talked about this a bit. This is a 33-minute album.
Oh,
And it's perfect at 33 minutes. 10 tracks, 33 minutes. Do you need more?
you can mow the lawn. You can mow the lawn listening to this album. Well, my lawn. Brad's got Brad probably for 3 hours to mow his lawn.
It's got acreage.
How big do you think my lawn is? Bloody hell.
There's a question.
Put the headphones on, get on the ride on mowers, put the levers forward, and just
3 hours later.
Fully oval done.
I've got to agree with Holly. This is not a 10 out of 10. This is Brad's score for me. It's just a phenomenal track. It's just wonderful. It's everything that you would want in a rock and roll song for that period. And like a lot of the tracks on this album, not all of them, like a lot of them, it stands the test of time today. It's, it deserves its place on radio today and on people's playlists. Brad.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a classic. This song was played on the radio quite a lot in the 90s, early 2000s, maybe even. Still played on classic rock stations here regularly.
Yep.
Undoubtedly a standout track from the album. The guitar work, the opening riff, you sort of touched on that and explained all that quite clearly there, Rock Professor. So, I think Mike Campbell's lead guitar work in the middle of the song is a highlight as well. I love his playing there. The bass line's very groovy. The drums, very steady, straightforward, perfect for the song. And Tom Petty's vocals are, melancholic and soulful. It makes it all a classic to me. And obviously the guitar riff is a hook, and you walk away from listening to this album and you start humming this riff. You start humming it. Yeah, you can't help it. So
it's a classic.
It's a classic, and it's a well-written, constructed song. And again, I would love to say that I think I would love to hear the 7-minute version on the album.
I want to hear that now. Yeah. I'm glad. That was going to be my concluding point. But give me that 7-minute shit.
Look, in this day and age when they do remasters and re-releases, and if that tape is still available, and they've got footage of, they've got sort of the ability to release it with the extended playing on it, that would be amazing. But definitely a 10 out of 10, never a skip for Breakdown, guys. Definitely.
Can I just jump in? They probably have. I haven't listened to Tom Petty's releases for the last 12 months, but he's made a few releases, so they probably already have Brad somewhere on those play tracks already released it. So thank you for that. I might go and investigate that after the show. Yeah.
Go and have a look on Spotify.
I would say seemingly part of the the times is, you keep the song short, don't they? Part of that time, 76, 77 was keeping your song short, which of course is a kind of 50s rock and roll thing. 50s rock and roll songs were, 2.5 minutes and out, 3 minutes and out kind of thing. So I think that's, and what I said earlier about that, has quite a lot in keeping with that 50s vibe in terms of that, keeping it
76.
short, keeping it sweet. But it has a lot in keeping with the song sort of 50s about being short, punchy, quick solo, gone, on to the next thing kind of thing. But, So anyway, the third track is Hometown Blues, and this is again a kind of mid-tempo thing, but the drums playing, and it's got that sort of that groove to it. I mean, Stan Lynch is a great groove drummer. He's got, that whatever he's playing has got a groove. It's got a swing to it. It's got a thing. Basically, it's a 12-bar blues song. Dun, 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 with on bass the great Donald Duck Dunn from Booker T and the MGs. I'm not quite sure how he managed to get him. They managed to get him on, but so he plays the bass on it, and it's a great bass line as well. Again, we've got the double track vocals for the chorus, and you've got a weird, I don't know if it's a weird saxophone, I think, throughout as well, kind of wheezy saxophone that gives it a kind of slightly sort of weird avant-garde edge to it that is sort of gives it a bit of an odd feel. But again, it's a pretty straightforward, vocals, first chorus, verse chorus kind of song, a little middle eight, 118, and again, in and out, great groove. I gave this 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip. Andrew.
Awesome. I just want to jump in and just say g'day to KXM Rock. Thank you, Joe, bro, for joining us. And he mentioned Dream Theatre. Mike Portnoy is back in Dream Theatre. Yay! We look forward to seeing what these guys are going to produce. Hometown Blues. Yes, the rock professor's right, folks. Duck Dunn is on bass, and it was an old song that Tom recorded back in his old Mudcrutch days, and it was recorded at Leon Russell's house with Duck Dunn on bass, Randall Marsh on drums, and a guy called Charlie Souza on sax. And then he gets the Heartbreakers in, and they overdub on top of it. So that groove that you're talking about, Simon, is a byproduct of the fact that you've got two different rhythm tracks, two rhythm sections on the track, as I understand it to be. And this song is, from Tom Petty's point of view, the heart and soul of what Tom Petty was or is up to this point. And don't underestimate the importance of the song, folks, for Tom Petty, because, as the rock professor said, it's got that classic 12-bar blues framework, but also it's got that stacked sound, which is crucial and critical, as well as obviously some other influences when we talk about some of the other tracks to come. But very important in the development of Tom Petty and the band as a whole, because what Tom liked about the Heartbreakers is, they were an employed band, Brad. They did what they were told to do by the boss, which is fair enough, but they were quite willing to go and overdub onto stuff. And from his experience beforehand, Simon, some musicians didn't want to do that, didn't want to, it wasn't part of who they were. They wanted to be, the musician. So again, it goes to the camaraderie that this band had and the seriousness they had to producing music under a musical director, a la Tom Petty. It's an incredible song. I'm ranking this track seriously, folks. This album seriously. I've given this 8.5 out of 10. It's never a skip though, Brad. But I do want to emphasise the importance of this song in Tom Petty's mind, if you can picture that. Certainly a deep cut. Brad.
Well, that's some great information you've given us there, Andrew. Well done.
Cheers, brother.
This track keeps the album's rock energy going for me. Obviously, the guitar and the bass, very tight. There's a fair amount of interplay going on there. Catchy rhythm and guitar parts throughout the song. The drums, they drive the song forward. It's interesting now knowing, and I'm going to go back and listen to it now after you've explained, Andrew, how they recorded this, or they overdubbed onto that track. So I'm going to go back and listen to it now with that knowledge, because I didn't know that, Andrew. I had no idea. Petty's vocals, he gives a sense of nostalgia in his vocal delivery. It's the way he's doing it. It puts you into the song lyric, the way he does it. And I think Tom Petty does that quite well in just about every single song that he sings. And without sort of touching on anything Simon said or Andrew said, I give it 8 out of 10, a solid 8 though. And I'm ranking this album like Andrew is, properly, and making sure that it's not biased anywhere, shape or form. 8 out of 10 and never a skip for me, guys.
Yeah,
Good point.
definitely. I think it's definitely right, Andrew. To deeper cut, isn't it? And but as you say, close to Tom Petty's heart. The next track 4, is the first track that gets over 3 minutes. There we are. It's called "The Wild One Forever."
Yeah.
It starts off an acoustic, and then you've got drums and the cymbals open up the sound. And you've got a kind of synth playing a melody in the background, keyboard playing a melody in the background. Bass comes in on the third line, which is I've noticed that's quite a usual thing. A lot of bands do that. Bass comes in on the third line of the verse, and you've got full band in on the chorus. Nice instrumental interlude in the middle with the second verse. And but the thing that struck me about this song, and always strikes me about it when I hear it, is the lyrics. I just love the lyrics of it. You know, there's something really atmospheric, and there's something about, you know, the way that, you know, there's something I saw in your eyes told me right away that you were going to be mine. You know, it's like there's something kind of poetic about it that I find really attractive, and you know, it's kind of different take, and you know, I always love that. And that chorus bit, something I saw in your eyes told me right away that you were gonna be mine. That's just brilliant. You know, it's a fantastic melodic piece of writing, and thrills me every time I hear it, and never gets old, never gets tired, and is still fresh and you know, and beautiful as every time I hear it. So it's a 9.5 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. Lovely track. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, folks, if you want to find out more, go and grab a copy of this. Tom talks about the song with a lot of affection to Simon and Brad in the interviews that he's having. It's one of his it's his wife's favourite song, and we know that the reason why it's her favourite song, because clearly it's a song that he's written about her. And the rock professor has told you why. So, you know, when somebody knows, you know, you're writing a song like that, or Layla, Brad, you know, or something, and I'm the reason why you've written that song, yeah, it's going to be an important thing. One of the great things that I like about Tom Petty too, folks, over the years, and Mike Campbell talks about this too, sometimes these guys, when they write songs, are quite simplistic. And I mean that nicely, in their chord structures and their progressions, Brad, when they write songs.
Yeah.
And that goes back to his love of the Beatles. They're not scared to just use 2 chords or 1 chord in a song right throughout. And Tom Petty talks about that on this song. You know, that riff that the rock professor's talking about is just a D major to a D sus. That's it. That's it. Through the song, and what gives it its depth and its breadth and the colour is, you know, the keyboards that the rock professors mentioned to you. But, you know, one of the great things about rock and roll is if you can keep it simple, people are going to pick up on that. And we're all guitar players here, and we've spoken about this a few times. And when someone, you know, before pre-internet, when someone tells you it's just 2 chords, and you get your acoustic guitar and they show you and you play along and you go, holy shit, is it that easy, Brad? Really? And they go, yeah. And you're playing along to the record and you're thinking, it should be more difficult than this. Yeah. But it ain't. 9 out of 10 for me. 9 out of 10. I love the song too. Yeah, definitely another deep cut. Brad. This
one ended up being sort of one of my favorites on the album, really. With just, I don't know why. I mean, I love Tom Petty's vocal on this, very heartfelt, and obviously we know why. there's a lot of emotional weight in the lyrical delivery, like the vocal delivery. Sorry, and I talk about that as a fellow songwriter. It's for me. It's just as important, the vocal delivery, or putting yourself into the lyric and delivering it that way. And I think Tom is a master at doing that. The guitar and bass, there's a lot of atmosphere. I love the drumming. It's very sort of dynamic. It's definitely a change of pace and a, you know, introspective sort of look. That's what it gives me, like when you listen to the lyrics into Tom Petty's life and with his love, and there's a bit of that going on. But I have to say, Tom Petty's vocals are what's carrying the emotional weight of the song for me, and it's a 10 out of 10 for me, guys. Never a skip.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow.
Yeah. I see that. Absolutely.
Your
Nice
mum
one.
knows. She said it's probably because you're a romantic, Brad. So, yeah. Okay.
Can't help it. They're an old romantic at heart, you know.
Young romantic.
Good score. Good score. Surprised.
Yeah. Good
Surprised by that score.
Excellent.
Well,
Excellent.
in all fairness, at the start of the week, it was a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Last track on side one, and we are doing side one and side two this week, kids. Is anything that's rock and roll, and I remember seeing him play this on Top of the Pops in the UK, and it was
so good.
It's fantastic. It was released as a single in the UK in '77. So classic. Again, playing that in that 12-bar blues framework thing, guitars playing straight in, and with drums and the bass.
Hey, Captain, we got the captain here.
Michael Smith, good morning. How are you? I hope you're good. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
Hope all is well in your world. It's good to see you. Yeah. So basically a 12-bar blues framework. It reminds me a bit of Status Quo in a funny kind of way. It's got that same sort of groove to it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. You see, you could see it. It's again, little solo piece at about 112. Again, vocals, chorus. Great. It's a kind of song of rebellion, isn't it? This song, that as cheers you up no end. And that thing about anything that rock and roll's fine as the reprise for it is great stuff. And it's a bit like I picked up the telephone, told the boss he was a jerk. Is a bit like it's like Eddie Cochran, isn't it? The guy with no dice, son, you got to work late. So it has kind of harked back to that kind of 50s thing to think. But very rock and roll solo. Definitely a kind of that kind of two notes thing, double stops thing that Mike Campbell does. It's great, and a little solo guitar part under the coda at the end of it. 9 out of 10 for me. Never a script. Great energy, great swing, great track to end side one. 9 out of 10. Andrew.
Yeah, I've got some parallels that I want to sort of dovetail into what the rock professors said, folks. So just give me a couple of seconds. But I want to do a special shout out to Michael Smith. He's a good friend of ours. We met him on another channel at least 5 years ago. He's gone through some health issues. So thank you, Michael. And if you ever want to come on and do a show with us, brother, flick us a message. We'll, if you want to come on, we'll always accommodate you if you want to do a show with us. Good to see you.
Michael. It'd be great. It's lovely to see you.
Anything that's rock and roll, as the rock professor said, folks, it was the first hit record the band had in the UK. And the rock professor's given you a clue why. 77, 76, not that far removed from the 50s and from the 60s. And Brad, as we know, rockabilly had a huge influence in the UK. George Harrison was a rockabillyer before he was a blues man, So, these guys were listening to rockabilly, listening to Eddie Cochran, before, or sometimes, or certainly at the same time as Chuck Berry. And this is one of the great things about the song, because it has that legacy of that rockabilly thing that the English love. They love it, Simon. They've always been listening to rockabilly, and up until the 70s, you've had remnants of the Teddy Boys, as an example, still listening to this album. There's a couple of guys on YouTube giving interviews in their late 30s when this album came out, and they saw this as a rockabilly album, Brad. Again, one of the remarkable things of this album. But you've got that Chuck Berry chug, Simon, which is rock and roll, isn't it? You can't get any more rock and roll than a Chuck Berry chug. And because of that, It's got to be a Brad score.
Ooh, look at that. Yes. Excellent.
Love it.
Wow. It's hard to follow.
That's
cool. This third spot is very hard, I must admit. Anything that's rock and roll. This song, it's a rock and roll anthem. It's got that rhythm section that's driving. The guitar work, some very, memorable hooks, the solo, the bass and drums were very solid. Tom Petty's vocals are filled with like a rebellious kind of spirit. He's definitely capturing like an essence of rock and roll here. And I gave it a 9.5 and never a skip. Never a skip.
Fantastic. Ellen thinks I am saying so truthful things. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't encourage him.
This is the time, folks, where we flick some photos. So obviously it's brought to us today by this charming fellow. He's paying for the photos.
This charming man.
Yes. Where is this charming man? He's not there. Okay. So give me a second, folks. Give me a second, because when I uploaded these. So this is the album cover. I'll get rid of that comment. As usual, we like to talk about the album covers. So, Rock Professor, you picked it. Tell us your thoughts of this album cover, and then Brad, your thoughts, please.
Yeah,
I think it's a great album cover. Actually, I think I think the logo clearly with the heart, clearly Heartbreaker, with the guitar through the middle of it, the flying V. I think that was I can't remember. I think it might have been Stan Lynch who suggested it was a flying V. It was going to be, I think, an SG before that, but and then they turned it into something that looks like a bit like a tattoo, which is very cool. But yeah, interesting. Andrew, if I see, is that the back you just said? So I've got loads of pictures on the back of mine of the album, of the band, looking suitably bandy. It's quite cool, but great cover, very strong, with Tom on the front in a leather jacket, kind of, so it's that kind of tough but tender thing that I think is really good. Gives you a real vibe about what the album is going to be like. I think it's like rock and roll edge to it. Yeah.
Brad,
I think it's the album cover sets a tone for the record. You look at the album cover and you almost know what you're going to be listening to.
Yeah,
it's got that rock sort of edge. It's got the old school, tattoo vibe, logo. And as soon as you look at Tom Petty, you know roughly what you're up against. It's got that vibe he's got that vibe. I know that sort of, for some reason, I reckon people like Joan Jett and that copied Tom Petty. That's just the vibe I get. They copied Tom Petty's look, his sound, but took it in their own direction. But I think when you look at certain bands, like you look at Black Sabbath, you know that they're a heavy rock band. You can tell. When you look at this band, you know what the music sounds like. To me, that's just how I see it anyway. And the album cover portrays, the music. if you picked up that record in a record store, never hearing this record, like never hearing the music, you would know what it sounds like. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, makes perfect sense. And so these picks that I've just thrown up, guys, are from 77, from the era of the album. So this is, we're just flicking through a couple there. There's Tom Petty with his, as the rock professor said in his intro, you know, had the long hair. And I'm going to just put this one back here. So, you know, these guys were rockers. You know, they were long hair. They weren't new wave, weren't following that new wave trend. They were definitely determined in their groove. They were rockers.
Yeah, 100%.
Mike Campbell.
Yeah.
There's that flying V, as the rock professor said. They discussed that in that film, folks. If you haven't seen that film, go and see it, because as the rock professor said, originally it was going to be an SG. And like all good drummers, Brad, he knew his guitar stand. He said, no, get the flying V.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know
Mike
why,
Campbell.
but I get excited looking at Gibson guitars. I don't know why.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, he's got a Ricky there.
I love Fenders, but you know, something about it.
Flying V.
Who's that flying V again?
Cool.
So that's Denny Cordell, the guy that's the producer of the album. Really important figure, obviously.
And British.
That's the Mudcrutch days that the rock professor was talking about, where they always had this entrepreneurial thing about what they were doing, these guys. It was about being creative, Brad, rock and rollers, but it was also about making money. And again, Tom Petty talks about the fact, you know, he was 13, 14, 15 years old, and he was making more money than his father, and his father used to thrash the hell out of him. So again, go and watch the film. It's remarkable. There's Mike Campbell. Looks like Brad,
It's a good point that Holly makes about Tom being the only blonde in the band, in a band of brunettes. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Standing out, yeah. All about Nevis. There they are, look, playing his gold top.
So this is a pic of Tom. So he started out, folks, if you weren't aware of it, he was a bass player in his first band. And we've always made this connection that bass players turn out to be great band leaders on a whole, because they're listening to every other musician, as opposed to, you know, Brad and his Les Paul up there, and he's just kicking it. You know, you guys catch up with me, you know.
Steady up there. Steady up there, Andrew.
I'm just giving you. And this is the early days of them jamming. So here's a pic here, because we love guitars on the show. So here's a pic here of Tom playing a 65 Casino. So I've just got a little note up here. So, you know, he started playing Stratocasters again last year. This is in 2008. Mainly early 60s models. He likes Tallies, Gretches, and Rickenbackers. But I guess if I had to pick one guitar to get the job done, it would be a Strat. I use about a dozen of them on the last tour. But one of his favourite guitars for recording, Simon, is a Casino. It's a great guitar, but he won't take it on the road because it feeds back. And we know why, because it's completely hollow-bodied. But he loves to use that Casino in the studio. And again, heavily influenced, Brad, by the Beatles.
Yes.
Yeah, 60 stuff, yeah. Morning, Arvin. Hope you're good.
G'day, Arvin.
Nice to see you.
And that's the original lineup, because I've had some changes over the years. The rock professor introduced them at his intro, but it's there for you folks. Tom, Mike, Ron Blair, the bass player, Ben Montench, and Stan Lynch. So there they are there, the originals from 76, Simon, to 82.
70, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the picks.
Yeah, cool. John says he can't put any Madonna photos in the chat, unfortunately.
I know the ones he's looking at. It's those ones,
Yes.
and no, we can't. No.
Thank goodness for that. And we
you-
don't have a
do you guys wanna-
Discord server to put them in.
Do you guys want to do? Go and watch Madonna at the O2 Arena, and she's wearing this silver thing, and she's got like these pillows at the back of her butt. She's trying to make her like, and it looks so. It's like, what are you doing, woman? Stop this now!
Yeah.
Just stop it, Madonna.
Can we? Yes. And by the way, can we stop that now? We're not. Let's stop talking about Madonna. See, John has got us
Okay.
off on a tangent. Well done, John.
All right, side two.
Dear. Side two. Side two starts off with "Stranger in the Night." Slight reference to Frank there in the title only, I think. It's got a bit of voices speaking, and then there's the drums clicking, and then you've got that guitar doing the drag, weird kind of sound. And before they come in, and again, kind of great atmospheric, kind of spooky lyrics. The lyrics it's quite a strange song. This in its lyrical content. It's very strange, and when it was dark at midnight, it was hardly any moon. No one really saw much. No one was really sure. Something didn't seem right. Something seemed kind of queer. The roar turned into whispers. Everyone stood there. It's like, yeah, what's going on here? So clearly there's a real story to this song about some incident that's happening, and you've got that kind of that call and response with the vocals and the guitar. Again, great chorus. Can I say, great choruses? They always write, tremendously memorable choruses. And oh dear. And again, vocals with the layered backing and some, I don't know if it's slide or Ebo guitar on this, but kind of odd sounding guitar towards the end. And a slide solo as well. I think a slide solo. I don't know if it's a slide solo or an Ebo, but it could have been an Ebo. Could have been an Ebo type thing, but definitely that kind of slidey thing. I gave this 9 out of 10. Never a skip, but great opener to side two. Atmospheric, telling a proper story about something, an incident that happened. And great sound. Andrew.
I used to skip this for a long time, Brad. This track back in the day, I used to skip it. But like a lot of tracks you that you used to skip, you probably appreciate them for what they are, and because you haven't listened to them in the context of the other songs, so it gives you a different perspective. But I'm going to tell you something about this track, and it's interesting how the rock professor described it as kind of eerie or spooky. Or is that how you described it, Simon?
Yeah, atmospheric. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. So there's a reason why it could be. I don't know. I don't want to get metaphysical, but I'm going to tell you guys something.
Get metaphysical.
This song is an old song, and it goes back to when Tom Petty was a solo artist, and one Jim Gordon plays drums on this track. So we know what happened to Jim Gordon. So when the rock professor said, "Ooh, spooky, eerie," and I'm going, well, got this genius drummer on here who turned out to be kind of spooky and eerie. So yeah, interesting kind of parallel that you've got there. This was apparently the first track. I mentioned one other track apparently that the Heartbreakers may have overdubbed on top of. This was, Brad, the first one that the Heartbreakers came in and dubbed on the top of it. So and that's again, from a band leader's perspective, that we've all been in the past in our own little minds. with their own little 3-piece bands or whatever, Brad Cook trio, it's really important. It's really important that, your bandmates listen to you. So otherwise they're out. They certainly did on this track. I don't know what it is, Simon. I just think it's a great slide guitar. I love it.
Yeah.
If we'd done this album 10 years ago, I would have ranked this track, Brad, 5 out of 10. I love the Jim Gordon connection. I love the spookiness and the eeriness that the Rock Professor talks about, because it's definitely there. It's definitely in the track. I've given it an 8 out of 10. It's never a skip though, bro.
Interesting. I'm intrigued to go back and listen to this song now again, after hearing that they've overdubbed. Because I didn't know that, Andrew, about those two songs. So anyway, I agree. I'll put here, and I've no word of a lie, the song's moody, atmospheric. It's supported by the guitar and bass, the drums. There's an eerie backdrop. I'll put that, no word of a lie. I'll put Tom Petty's vocals are mysterious, like there's like a reflective thing going on, and adds a lot of depth to this track. I gave this initially a 7 out of 10. But over the week, I changed it today to 8 out of 10, and never a skip, guys.
Yeah.
Never a skip. Yeah.
It's one of those slow burner songs, isn't it? That
Oh, yeah.
you might, you've got to have a few listens to take a run up at it before you get it, kind of thing. I think as a song.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Good, fantastic. Well done, guys. So the next track 7, is "Fooled Again, I Don't Like It." Clearly reference to the Who. Won't get fooled again. Possibly, I'm not saying that's true, but I didn't read that anywhere. I made it up, but it sounded good. So again, it's got that. I know, yes.
If it's, you know what we like, folks. If it's bullshit and it sounds good, we run with it.
I'm in it. I'm on it. I'm on it straight away. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's got that. It's got slow drums playing a kind of swinging beat, guitar playing rising chords, and the organ as well. I think it's quite interesting that everything's quite. Nothing really kind of springs out at you in these. They're all kind of in together. There's no kind of pushing something way up and things. That all the instrumentation serves the songs. The songs have great melodies and great harmony parts, and But Mike Campbell is, I think, one of the greatest guitarists at serving the song, as a rather than just playing whole loads of stuff and things. And that, it's I have no objection to people playing loads of crazy stuff, but in Mike Campbell is, I think, the greatest exponent of serving the song, just playing enough to do something, to give it some character, some emphasis, some color, some dynamics. I think he's brilliant at that. And as you said earlier, we can all probably play Mike Campbell riffs. I can't play them quite like Mike Campbell though. But I think, as I say, I think that his great strength is that kind of understated thing, and he understands what being in a band is, and it's not just about live. Of course, you can do it. You can be out the front much more, given it some. But in these sort of contexts of these songs, you've got you've got the ability to just sit in there. And as I say, Ben Montench as well is clearly a great musician and does a lot of things, but they sit in there just playing to the song and making the song sound great. I think this is again a kind of another great song. I'd give this 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip. Andrew.
John ZD351 is talking about Commissioner Gordon. We're talking about the drummer Gordon.
Commissioner Jim Gordon. dear.
Oh my God. Yeah, my God. Okay, right. I've got to call it as I see it, folks. Fooled again. It's a claustrophobic song, and Tom gives us, a great vocal performance on the track, Simon, and you've got the keyboards there as well, giving it that kind of atmospheric stuff going on. But it's tightly recorded, Brad. There's something about this track, that just kind of squeezes. It kind of squeezes everything in, and even though it's got elements of space, but I just don't like the track. I don't like Simon the way it's recorded. It's not his greatest vocal, his greatest lyrical song, and that's okay.
Slight, isn't it? Yeah.
We've said this many times. You're allowed to have album fillers on great albums, and that's okay. And I think that's what this track is, Brad. For me, I don't like it. It's 6 out of 10 for me. But it's never a skip.
Okay. For me, what have I put here that's any different to you guys? I'll put. I'm trying to pick out stuff I've written here that are different to what you guys have spoken about. I mean, the electric guitar. There's a lot of tension in the guitar. The bass line and drums very predominant. The song is very dynamic. I put Petty's vocals convey a sense of conflict and disconnect, or discontent. Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Discontent. And again, I think that Tom's putting himself in the lyrical content. Interesting to hear what both of you said about this and your opinion of this, Andrew, because when I started listening to this again this week, I think I gave it 6.5 out of 10, but I've given it 7.5 out of 10 and never a skip. But I know what you're saying about the recording of it, and it's interesting because it's all on the same record, but it sounds like, to me, it might have been added later. Maybe it was a recording they did later and put it on.
So you've hit the nail on the head, because they recorded this in a couple of locations. And Simon, we know, for example, some albums have been recorded on, like Led Zeppelin, for example, and we can't see any discontinuity between the tracks. But some albums, clearly, you can see or hear discontinuity. And I think this might be. I don't know where this was recorded. I should have done some research on it, but it's claustrophobic. It's kind of condensed, and it could be because of that reason.
Yeah.
Good point.
Sorry. Interesting.
Yeah.
And we are divisive. Excellent. We are divided. Interesting. It's interesting that it's provoked some. I think. The next track is Mystery Man, which has a very kind of country vibe, doesn't it? It starts off with that tremolo guitar, just playing, just strumming, and just a cymbal to keep time. And then you've got what I think is some kind of, I don't know if it's a slide guitar or a lap steel. It sounds like a lap steel to me, which I would say. It's got a kind, great vocals and organ playing in the background, quite sort of sultry vocals as well. Kind of mysterious, of course, as befits the title of the song. And a nice little pedal steel solo, and further on you've got the vocals and guitar playing a call and response, and it's got that kind of slow Bo Diddley beat, hasn't it, at the end, kind of thing at the end. I gave this 7.5 out of 10, but not a skip, and a great, nice country vibe song. Contrast to what's gone before and what's coming up.
Oh, okay. Mystery Man. So from what I understand, guys, it was a live cut number. which is really, really good to hear and to know. Because later on, when we do maybe some of the other Heartbreaker albums that they did, like Mojo and Hypnotic Eye, everything is recorded live, Brad. You know, we know that's what that's everything was live, which is just fantastic. Love it. Isn't it great? Gosh, you know, oh, I love rock and roll when it's recorded like that. Simon, what I like about this track is a complete contrast to the previous track, which is what we like on albums, don't we? We like it when, you know, you can have a contrasting song.
Yeah.
But the contrast that I like, obviously, it's in the positive with this track. You've already said that there's that country feel to this song, but it has something else. And I'm gonna pinch. Sorry, bro. So if you guys have watched the Damned Torpedoes documentary, there's a couple of little things there where Tom says, you know, to the camera, he said, only Southern guys can do this. And this is one of those songs that only a Southern guy can do. So what Tom Petty does is he's got this country, but he's got the Southern vibe going on at Brad, you know, that Southern rock kind of thing coming in there with that Bo Diddley beat. And only Southern guys can do that, you know. We're seeing it with ZZ Top as an example, you know, of just being back in the pocket and kind of just giving that that kind of country Southern vibe. I love the track, Simon, because of that. I think it's a magical song. It's a clever song, and I do ask people to go back and, you know, check it out. I'm not going to Brad score this. I'm not going to 10 out of 10 this song, but I'm certainly doing better than 7. I'm doing way better than 7. It's a 9 out of 10.
Ooh, all right.
Look at me in trouble now.
Mystery Man. It has that. I actually put it has a bluesy, slightly psychedelia feel to it. Yeah, the guitar work's got that moody sort of vibe going on. The bass line grooves kind of alongside of it. The drums are very atmospheric to the song. There's almost like an uncertainty in the drumming. Tom Petty's vocals is I don't know. I can't think of the word that I was going to suggest for it. There's like a enigmatic sort of quality to the song because of his vocals.
Yep.
I gave it 7 out of 10 as well initially, Simon, but I bumped it up to 7.5 just because it grew on me a little bit more. But I'm probably closer to you there, Simon, on the score than Andrew. But I'm going to go back and listen to it again and reassess it after hearing Andrew talk about it the way he has, because he's very excited about it. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 7.5 for me for Mystery Man.
Cool.
It's cool, excellent. A bit more discord. But the second last track is Luna, which stylistically is probably the biggest difference on this album. I think that it's got atmospheric, vaguely kind of proggy sort of ballad, which is which clearly nods back to Denny Cordell's background producing Procol Harum and the Moody Blues and stuff. One feels that I don't hear any influence on the songwriting, mind you, but the production of it for sure. It's a strange song again, with kind of, if anybody wants to do a PhD on the appearance of the moon in Tom Petty songs and night, then I think this is about the fourth time. That we've got sort of moon and night and things. I mean, I love the lyrics on this. I think the lyrics are great. I think they're kind of quite impressionistic lyrics. White light cut a scar in the sky, thin light of silver. Night was all clouded with dreams. Wind made me shiver. It's like, that's pretty cool, sort of atmospheric and not like what's gone before, or indeed what's going to come. But again, it's got a kind of atmospheric keyboards that play in it. Great bass melody as well. Great singing too, I think. But again, just kind of like not much in the way of guitars. Very much kind of some strings going on as well. Synth, I think, playing strings towards the end. And then you've got, again, a drop out down to just organ and synth before the fade out at the end. Great atmospheric track. I gave this 10 out of 10. It's one of my favourites on the album. I really like this record. You see.
You're not going to like me, Simon.
Well, no, that's fine. Well, that's all right. No, it's fine because it's a bit out there and a bit left field for which I think is maybe why it's the second last track on the album. So whilst I don't think it proves my theory, it might prove it to you as a thing. Absolutely.
Wait, stop reading my notes.
Let's. Well, I see. Don't worry, I've thought about it. I thought about it a bit, so I'll pass it over to Andrew to give it 6.5 out of 10. And
yeah. Well, look, one of the great things that we love about rock and roll is that we can have debates and discussions about it. And one thing you'll never get on this channel, folks, is a Rolling Stones list show. We'll leave that up to other channels. We do our own lists. We're not going to mention, Rolling Stone lists. But we do like to have confrontation and division and controversy without Rolling Stone kind of giving us nonsense. The reason.
Well, they're in all the news feeds. 54 people have made YouTube videos about it. It's like, if that's not publicity, I don't know what is.
Gosh, they stopped being relevant 30 years ago. I can't believe people still read that shit. Anyway, back to Luna. I'll give you guys
not to put too fine a point on it.
Yeah. So originally, folks, this song was Tom playing organ with Stan on drums. Originally, that's how the song was recorded. If there's anything that's really good about the track, it's that jam session, Brad, at the end. In the course of doing some research for this, I found out, again, it's one of the songs that Tom wrote the lyrics right there in the studio for the song, which is an interesting thing because there's lots and lots of songs, Brad and Simon, where Tom Petty, like Refugee, for example, while they go and have a cup of tea, he writes the words for Refugee while they're having a cup, so there's lots and lots of songs through his career where he does that. And Simon, we love songwriters on this channel, and Tom Petty is up there with one of the, with the greats. And having that artistic, poetic ability to be able to write words down is something that I kind of envy, because I find it hard to put 3 words together, let alone write a song sometimes. So, the fact that he's done this on...
Would you?
No. Yeah, okay, I'll take that. So I like where the songs come from, Brad, but I don't like where the song's going, and I'm kind of thinking in the back of my mind, what's that rock professor's theory about the second to last song being shit, this could be it. I've given this 6.5 out of 10, Brad. I too have made the moon connection as well. Southern guys love doing things in the moonlight because it's so hot during the day and humidity. So they're paying homage to the moonlight, Brad. Yeah. They're out there doing, running whiskey or distilling whiskey.
Moonshine.
Moonshine. Bagging the dope or whatever they do now. 6.5 out of 10. It's never a skip though, Brad.
All right. Well, I'm going to apologize.
I have a feeling that Brad's going to go 5 and definitely a skip.
I'm going to apologise in advance to anyone who
Don't.
likes the song. And Simon, this is not a personal thing, but I think this song solidifies your theory of the second last song being a train wreck. So look, I'm going to point out a couple of notes I made. I'll put here. The song has like a, Tom Petty's vocals are he's got like a romantic and sort of he's adding like a dreamy quality to the vocal for the song. Gives it like a bit of dynamic. The guitar interplay is delicate. I put bass and drums to provide a dynamic rhythm. Slower introspective track I've put there. I skipped it long ago. I'll continue to skip it. I'll respectfully give it 5 out of 10.
Ah,
I'm not a fan, but that's the wonderful thing about music. We can all have opinions, and please don't hate me for that, Simon.
well, your mum's on the right track. With 9.5 out of 10,
yeah,
you see.
Yeah.
You
That one's
you
given
lot
9.5,
on the other
so
hand,
she's making up.
you frankly pair of charlatans.
Oh,
She's paid the fine. She's paid the fine
Yeah.
for Brad being put in timeout.
I'm worried about John's comment. Banger of a tune. Brad's put himself in timeout. Yes, absolutely. But hey, it's all right. It's fine. No, but I think I understand completely where you're coming from. It's not like anything else on the album. It is, it's an out there kind of track, isn't it? And you've got to go out there and you've got to get back kind of thing. And
Yep.
I think that what is he doing? Holly, can't skip the whole of side 2. That's not it at all. Don't worry, go back and listen to it. But no, that's really interesting that you guys don't get it and don't look at it the same way as me at all. I find it a great atmospheric, strange track that I really like. Anyway, moving right along to the last track on side 2, American Girl. I mean, there's a whole long story about this. About Tom said he wrote it in a little apartment he had in Encino, right next to the freeway, and the car sometimes sounded like waves from the ocean, which is why there's that line about the waves crashing on the beach. The word just came tumbling out very quickly. It was a start of writing about people who are longing for something else in life, something better than they have. I mean, clearly it's Roger McGuinn recorded it, and apparently Roger McGuinn's great line about it is when somebody played it and he said, I don't remember writing that song. So he recorded it on Thunderbird. So clearly it evokes that 60s thing. It evokes the Byrds, although it doesn't actually sound very like the Byrds, but it evokes that kind of ring. I don't know. It's probably a Rickenbacker. Hopefully it is a Rickenbacker playing it on there, and it's it's great to no, that's true, Holly. You can't. I think for me, it's got that fantastic opening 2 guitar fast drum bit, playing different places on the neck, and then the drums, and then the bass playing that famous riff as well. The slide in, and then great vocals. Anyhow, it's a great song, isn't it? It's got great vocals, it's got a great chorus, great tagline to it that Tom uses a lot. Fantastic. I presume Rickenbacker sound's got that jangly Rickenbacker sound. It's one of the great tracks. It's the I think the one track on this album that really transcends this album is in the firmament of great Tom Petty songs. If you don't know it, and I'm sure everyone knows it, and it's It's even got a bit of tricksy playing at the end. Mike Campbell's allowed a bit of tricksy playing at the end, just on the fade out, just to keep you interested. This is a Brad Score song. It's 100 out of 10. And if anybody ever skips it, I should be round their house. It's a great song in anybody's book. Andrew.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece of a song, isn't it? You know, and I'll never forget, you know, that D chord when I was showing, you know, where it's there,
Right, yeah.
and you're
the
playing
little
it like
finger.
this,
Yeah.
and you're
The other one's
muting
playing down.
that B string, Brad, and you're playing along with it, and it's like, you know, and then you get together with a bandmate and some guys, and so you're playing that chord, and he's up here playing the D chord, and it's like, holy gosh. You know, it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And again, that simplicity that these guys have is, I'm going to probably go on a little bit. I'm sorry, folks, on this track, but
Go on a little bit.
Mike Campbell has done a video recently on his channel where he talks about how they got him to play that country solo at the end that the Rock Professor's talking about, and he didn't like it. Mike Campbell didn't like it, but the guys in the band, Brad, said, hey, that sounds really, really good, you know. So, you know, doing that rockabilly thing on the broadcaster, Simon. Apparently he's recorded this on that broadcaster.
Okay.
That he never washes or cleans the frets on, Brad. So go and check that out. It's fantastic. There's a few videos on his channel where he talks about how they wrote some of these songs and the process. So, you know, don't listen to us. You know, and the famous words of Brian Jones, go and listen to these guys actually talk about it. We're just fanboys hanging out. But that D chord opening track that the Rock Professors have already explained with that bass intro by Ron, it's just fantastic. You know, something's going to bloody come on and just grab you, and it certainly does. And again, Mike Campbell, Brad, you know, that simple intro, the fills that he does through the song, and that ending, nothing major, nothing super technical going on. It's just a simple, elegant riff. It's one of my favourite Tom Petty songs. It's been my top 3. It's a masterpiece, and I'm glad that they put this track on the last. They knew what they were doing. They knew that this track was going to be a killer track, and it just turned out to be, you know, I love the track, always have. It's one of my favourites. I love playing it. You can play it on acoustic. I'm sure we've all played it. You know, it's just a great track. And it kind of brought Tom Petty a bit of attention when it was featured in Silence of the Lambs. I understand. In the early 90s as well, when Tom was rediscovering his third win, Simon. I too have given this a Brad score. It's just a phenomenal track. As Holly said, she skipped all of side 2 to get to this track. So if you've bought this album and you enjoy the last track, well, I think you know your $20 or $30 that you paid for it during the day, Brad, you're well and truly paid back in full.
Yes,
Brad.
Well, what a wonderful way to redeem the album from the second last song to this song.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, it's putting Luna in second last before this made sense when you put it in the album order. Because if anything, it not only emphasizes how good this song is, you've got that sort of lull before the power of this masterpiece of a song, really. So it's, for me, this one's the album's most iconic track. I'll put that. Great middle section of the song, the jangly guitars, the riff is unforgettable. The bassline drums create like that infectious groove. Tom Petty's vocals are upbeat, optimistic. It's a timeless classic. You know, it's a classic. It's a masterpiece. can't say any more than what you guys have already said about it, but it's definitely a 100 out of 10, and it's the it's the big one on the album. So we're all on the same path with this one, and respectfully, I'm having a go at you, Simon, with the second last song, but
quite right.
It's one of the tracks on the album that still sounds good today. Not every track on this album sounds good today, and that's fine. But Breakdown and this track certainly, and Rock and Roll would be the three tracks that I think, Simon, sound good today in 23 than they.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I agree with Holly. Radio Gold. I think that's a good summing up of it as well.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So there we are. That was,
so the next album that we do on Tom Petty, guys, when we pick him, we should maybe pick Mojo Rise, and maybe I don't know. I'm just suggesting that.
Yeah.
Well, wait for it. That's quite late in his career, and there's quite a lot of albums before that.
Yeah. Well, we don't go chronological on this channel, but For go if you haven't heard that album, check it out. It's got some great numbers on there. So we're back next week, folks. We're doing a contemporary album. We don't do a lot of those up-to-date modern albums on this channel, guys, do we? A new release.
New release. We're doing. Go us! Look how up to date we are.
A new release of a classic rock band. Timeless classic rock band.
And look, before we do a conclusion, though, Simon, on this album, that's going to be really, really interesting because none of us have heard these songs for 30 or 20 or 10 or 15 years.
No.
It's going to be completely new to us, and I do look forward to that. It's caught in controversy, and a Rolling Stones album will always court controversy, so it's good to see these guys in their 80s, Brad, still doing controversy.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Mate, I've got to say, mate, these 80-year-olds from that era, I mean, after seeing Paul McCartney, I'm convinced that there's not many musicians that can do what they still do. I
agree.
No.
And a short little plug. If you haven't seen my Paul McCartney highlights, go check out the. It's been getting some good views, guys.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that in our conclusion. So we've been getting some good views. You've got 2K views on that.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, good work. Well done, Brad.
And a review I did on my Greenie has got. Hold on. Thank you guys for watching that.
Yes. Your new Greenie guitar. I was going to mention it.
1.2 views. So thank you guys for.
I was actually waiting till the end of the show to ask you, do you have it handy? Do you have it?
Yeah. I'll show it to you guys. Hold on.
Come on. Let's have a look.
Isn't it interesting, Andrew, that Simon, like Andrew slipped this one under the radar for so long.
Didn't he?
How long have you had this guitar?
I got rid of some gear, and so I'll tell you a story. So I wasn't looking at getting one.
Yeah.
But I went and played it, and Brad, you've got a couple of Les Pauls, and you know what it's like. So it's just completely different to my other one.
Yeah.
Just the way that it plays. I had to get rid of some gear to get it. But it's beautiful. It's got the Greenie burst.
Yep.
It's got the what they call the a satin finish, but see how it gets shiny because you're playing it and you're rubbing it. So that's one of the great things that a satin finish does.
Keep it clean.
Yeah.
Rubbing
but
it,
but
shiny.
you can see there how it's just, and that's one of the great things about the satin finish that some of the other reviewers don't get.
Yeah,
that's one of the
well,
reasons why they do it, so that when it comes up with that
you-
sort of relicy kind of gloss. But no, beautiful.
You didn't.
I'm going to take that to work tomorrow, and I'm going to do an A and B sound test
Oh, nice.
with the same amp that I did in the same settings, and just see how it sounds from this.
so,
You didn't tell us you'd gone to Nashville to pick it up. I'm outraged.
Oh no. This is not the 50K one.
It's not the 50 grand one.
no, it's a brand spanker, Andrew.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. Got it for a deal. But like I said, you guys know that I flick stuff on and flick it off, but wasn't looking for it. Got them to put it away after I played it and got rid of a couple of guitars.
Yeah.
But as you've said many times, just sounds and plays so much different from my other one.
Yeah. Congrats, mate.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
It's,
Yeah, brilliant.
It's in the right hands, I think. That
Thank you,
guitar.
bro.
But just keep it clean and keep polishing that piece of wood, mate.
Thank you, guys. So
Fantastic. Beautiful.
Great album, Simon. Thank you for picking this album. We do look forward to maybe doing a couple more of Tom Petty's albums later on the show.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's just struck me that it might be fun to do as a sort of, well, there's a bit of a contrast to what we've done in the last few weeks and stuff, and kind of, Tom Petty is one of my favourite artists, and to go back and have a, whenever I listen to the album, I really like it as an album and things, and I think it has a vibe, it has a sound, and it has a a sort of a character that is pretty unique, really, and as a bit of its time, of course, but I still think it's got that punch, that kind of leanness, that kind of tough but romantic sounds to it that I really like, and I like the space in it and things, and I think it's great, and so thank you for indulging me in that. It's been great.
No problem. We'll be back next week.
Right.
Hackney Diamonds. We're going to be ranking that.
Hackney
It's going to be new.
Diamonds.
It's going to be fresh. We look forward to that.
Ooh,
Controversy.
I love it. Bring it on.
Is it just us three, or are we having a special guest too?
Oh, no. That other one won't come on, but someone might come on. No, the other one, he ain't going to come on.
Carl. No.
No, he'll be busy. But we'll see if we can
He's
get
busy.
Foxy on. Otherwise, it'll be
Cool. That's three.
the three
That's fine.
amigos.
The three of us. Back the three amigos. Fantastic. Shall I?
Here we
shall
go.
I say goodbye to everyone in the chat?
Cream.
Cream.
That's it.
Good morning, Derek. Hope you're well. Nice to see you.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Shall I say goodbye to everyone in the chat? Derek, John ZD31. Hope your Madonna album lived up to your expectations, John. Great scores all round for that. Ellen, thanks, Ellen. To you, Holly, of course. Thanks, Holly. Good to see you. We'll go to bed now. Everybody in America. Got John, Derek, Holly, Gret Zeppelin. Thanks, Gret. KXM Rock. Nice to see you, KXM Rock. Johnny Heartbreaker was in earlier as well. God, I don't want to miss anybody. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? Arvin, thanks for dropping by, Arvin. Nice to see you too. Gret, KXM Rock. Anybody else? We're scrolling back up the chat quickly. John. Stevo, 12 Snyder. Nice to see you, Stevo. Thanks for dropping by too. Phil Byers. Thanks, Phil. Nice to see you too. Fantastic. Ed as well. Ed as well. Tim Thomas. A few people earlier on in the chat. I think that's probably everybody. So hopefully I got everybody. If I didn't, apologies. And thanks for coming and dropping by and making great comments. And we'll see you next week for a modern album. Oh dear.
A modern album.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week. Take care. See you next week.
Thank you.